Hello, let's create this look together. Today is a deep dive into my professional tips explaining all the whys and hows behind this look. I'm starting with just a tiny bit of foundation. If you're like me and you love that natural finish, the secret is not overdo it. I like to apply it in a very thin layer and only build it up in the areas where I need. I really want my skin to peek through because that's what makes the look feel like me. Now, time for concealer. And I'm using a high coverage product, but I'm only putting it exactly where it matters. I focus on these inner corners near the nose. That's usually where my shadows are deepest. It's amazing how just a little bit of brightness in that specific spot can make you look so much more rested and awake. The most important part for me is how I blend it. I take my brush and I just gently dab the product into the skin. When you dab, you're pressing the pigment exactly where it needs to stay. If you drag it, you're just moving the product around and it often ends up in settling into those fine lines. This way, we're getting a bright, awake look that actually lasts all day. I get asked about the difference between these two products, so let's clear it up. Think of the contour as your architect. It creates a shadow and defines your bone structure with a cool, ashy tones. Bronzer, on the other hand, is like a sunshine in a bottle. It's all about adding warmth and that healthy, sun-kissed look. Let's move on to the shaping of the face. I'm starting by placing a few dots on my forehead and right under my cheekbones. I always use my fingers to actually feel for the bone first. I want to place the product right tucked underneath it, exactly where the natural shadow would fall. When it comes to blending, direction is everything. For the forehead, I'm always moving the brush upwards, right into the hairline. We want to avoid bringing that darkness down towards the center of the face. By moving the brush upwards, we're creating an instant, beautiful lift that feels so sculpted but still very soft and natural. It's a very gentle process, no harsh lines, just a seamless transition that defines your unique structure in the most subtle way possible. I'm very careful not to bring the product too low or too close to the mouth because we want to keep the face looking elevated and fresh. Now let's add some warmth with a bronzer. I like to think of this step as a warm, sun-kissed hug for the face. Especially if you're like me and you want that healthy, radiant glow, the key is to apply it where the sun would naturally touch you. And now time for the blush. I feel like this is the step that really brings the joy back into the face. I like to apply it a bit higher on the cheekbones to keep that lifted, fresh look. It gives you such a lovely, youthful color that makes the whole complexion feel so much more alive. A touch of highlighter now. Just to catch the light, I'm placing it on the high points of the face, my cheekbones, the bridge of the nose, and on the brow bone. It's not about being sparkly, it's just about that dewy, hydrated glow that makes you look radiant. It's my favorite way to finish the skin look. For my brows, I like to keep them very soft. I start by defining the bottom line just to give them a clean base. And then I fill in any little gaps with the tiny strokes that looks just like a real hair. I always finish by brushing them through. It softens everything and lifts the brow. Before we apply anything to the lips, I have this little habit of cleaning them. It sounds simple, but removing any leftover balm or foundation makes such a huge difference. I'm going to show you my invisible lip trick. I use eyeliner that it's almost the exact same shade as my natural lips. I always start with the bottom lip. And here's a little tip. Try not to overline the corners of your mouth as that can pull the face down. We want to keep the shape soft and lifted. Once I have my shape, I'm taking a slightly lighter pencil to fill in entire lip. It makes the lips look naturally full and soft without ever looking overdone. And finally, a layer of gloss for that extra hydration and shine. It's the perfect finishing touch to this radiant look. Now let's focus on the eyes, especially if you're like me and you want to define your gaze without it looking too harsh. The secret is to use a soft pencil instead of a liquid liner. I'm gently lining the pencil in my upper lash line, and it shouldn't be perfect because we will blend it in a minute. And then repeating everything to the bottom waterline. Using that same soft pencil, I'm gently extending the line outwards to create a subtle wing. I'm carefully filling in that wing with my pencil to create a solid base, which is exactly what gives us that beautiful lifted effect. Once that's in place, I take a small, dense brush and very gently smudge it out. We want the color just to melt into the skin, creating a natural shadow that lifts the eye. Moving on to the eyeshadows. I love using a tones that feels like an extension of our face. I'm placing a soft shade across the lid and then I'm taking a darker shadow to softly diffuse the pencil, blending it out until all the harsh lines disappear. Especially if you're like me and love that dreamy hazy effect, this step is key to making that wing look like a natural shadow that just melts into your skin. Now I'm bringing that same deeper shade to the lower lash line to balance everything out. To finish the eyes, it's all about the mascara. Especially if you're like me and want that extra lift, I focus on brushing the lashes outwards and upwards following the direction of our wing. And that is the finished look. Since I'm just starting my journey here on YouTube, your support means the world to me. Thank you so much and keep shining.